NASA rejected me, not once, not twice, not 3 or 4, but 11 times. It wasn't until the 12th time that I finally got selected.
I'm Talia Sapersky, planetarium educator at the Museum of Science. My guest today is José M. Hernández, astronaut and philanthropist, and honestly, that's only some of his accomplishments. I got to talk to him about his journey to space, what it was like to have a movie made about his life, and also that time he went to Antarctica with Captain Kirk and Neil deGrasse Tyson. José Hernández, thank you so much for coming here to the museum to talk with us today.
It's a pleasure being here. I must confess I've never been to the Boston Museum of Science, and I'm very excited to be here. I've learned so much already.
Well, it's an incredible honor to have you here. You are a very, very accomplished individual. You are an astronaut, an aquanaut,
Yes.
an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, a winemaker, a marathon runner, as I understand it. You also developed a way to detect breast cancer. Of course, I'm a huge space nerd, so the astronaut aspect of this is what I'm most fascinated by, and I wanted to start with the big question.
Mm-hmm.
So my big question for you is, how did going to space change you?
I think it changed me dramatically in my perspective of things. I flew on the STS-128 mission aboard Space Shuttle Discovery to the International Space Station. When you get up into space, it only takes 8.5 minutes. You go from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour. And then now you're traveling around the world at about a height of about 280 miles at that speed, trying to catch up to the International Space Station. While we do that, it's time to change to regular clothes. So after about one revolution around the Earth, I get out and I unbuckle my seatbelt and float for the first time. And man, you cannot describe the sensation, but you feel like an actual superhero. You're defying the laws of physics as we know them on Earth. And then I'm going down from the flight deck to the mid deck to change to regular street clothes. And I stop and look at our Earth from the port window. And I said, what am I going to see as I make my way there? Because I'm saying I'm going to be one of less than 600 individuals out of almost 8 billion that see the Earth from this perspective. And I'll tell you what I saw. We were flying over North America, and I saw, you can see Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. But the beautiful thing is you couldn't tell where one country ended and another began. And I said, oh my gosh, I had to go out of this world to realize that down there we're just one. We're just the human species. And borders are created by humankind designed to separate us. And how sad, because from this perspective, we're just one. I wish our world leaders would get this opportunity to travel to space and look at our world from this perspective. Because I guarantee you, Talia, that our world would be a much more peaceful place if that was to occur. So that changed me. And then the very second, real quickly, faster, the second one is that you get to see a sunrise and a sunset every 90 minutes. And one day I said, I'm going to enjoy a sunrise. And there I am watching as the sun comes behind the Earth. You wait at the exact moment, you see the rays of the sun hit our Earth, and you can see the thickness of our atmosphere. And let me tell you, Talia, it's scary thin. I became an instant environmentalist because I said, those folks have it right, that if we don't become good stewards of our planet's environment, the same thing could happen with what is suspected happened on Mars. Mars only has 1% of our density of atmosphere, and they suspect there was this type of greenhouse effect that caused a runaway effect for the atmosphere to go off into space. And same thing could happen on Earth. So I became an environmentalist, and I said, anytime I get a chance to talk about this, I'm going to talk about it.
It sounds like an incredible experience.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So going back a little bit, how did you come to be all of these many things, astronaut included. Can you talk a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, I mean, I just started doing things, and I figured, eventually I'll be able to reach whatever goal I set in front of me. I was a migrant farm worker with my parents, family of four. I'm the youngest of the four. And we used to travel up and down California and go to Mexico for 3 months. Wasn't until a second grade teacher convinced my parents we needed to stay in one place that we made Stockton, California, our home. Our education started to get traction. But it wasn't until I was 10 years old in the fifth grade that I see the very last Apollo mission on TV, Apollo 17, and none other than astronaut Gene Cernan walking on the surface of the moon. I would go outside. It was a cold December evening, come back, and I was just mesmerized. I said, man, I want to be like that guy. And best thing I could have done is to tell my father. And my father, took it seriously. He did two amazing things. First, he validates the dream. He tells me, I think you can do it. And that's the powerful effect of empowerment. He believed in me. I believed in myself. And then he said, follow this simple 5-ingredient recipe. He says, first, determine your purpose in life. Recognize how far you are. Draw yourself a roadmap. Prepare yourself according to the challenge. And the same work ethic you put out in the fields picking fruits and vegetables. He pointed to my books on the kitchen table. So you put that there. And he gets up. He walks away and says, always give more than what people expect out of you. That's the key. And man, I went to bed so happy. I said, wow, my dad thinks I could be an astronaut. And I would add a sixth ingredient, though, Talia, and that is perseverance. Because I'm here to tell you, NASA rejected me not once, not twice, not 3 or 4, but 11 times. It wasn't until the 12th time that I finally got selected. Then I go on to my journey of training for an astronaut, becoming an astronaut, and then flying into space. They retired the space shuttle fleet. The only way you can travel is with the Russians, but you have to commit 3 years where 80% of your time is training in Russia. I have 5 kids. I couldn't do that. And so that's when I decided to leave NASA, created my own very successful company in aerospace consulting, and then come full circle in my life and acquire a vineyard. There's a saying, you can take the kid out of the farm, but not the farm out of the kid. I was so excited to own a vineyard, and my father helping me tend to the vineyard. And as if that wasn't enough, the winery that I sold the grapes to, they showed us how they made wine, and I convinced myself it's not rocket science. I can do this.
Rocket science.
So after a few years of fumbling around, taking some courses at UC Davis on winemaking, I came up with my own label, Tierra Luna Cellars, and now I produce award-winning wine that tastes out of this world, Talia.
I bet. Oh, it sounds awesome. Any one of those would be an amazing accomplishment for somebody to achieve in their life. And you managed to do like all of it. Are you, in fact, the most interesting man in the world?
Hey, if Dos Equis is listening, yes, I am, of course. But I think the most important part is the part that is not even mentioned a lot. And that is in my early career at Lawrence Livermore Lab. I spent 16 years there. In my early career there, we redirected technology that I had worked on 5 years, developing an X-ray laser that was going to be positioned up in space as a national defense system. When the Soviet Union broke apart, the project gets canceled. And instead of looking for another job, there's always, when there's adversity, you look for opportunity. And I saw an opportunity. I said, man, I spent 5 years in this project. I developed some pretty neat algorithms that characterizes how X-rays interact with matter in 3D. And I bet I can use this for something else. I didn't know what, but I said, I bet I can use it for something else. I talked to my boss. He said, hey, stick around for 6 months because it looks like you have the answer to a question we don't know. Let's find out what that question. And you know what that question was, Talia? It was, how do you develop the first full-field digital mammography system for the earlier detection of breast cancer? And so we developed not only a system that produces images much more clear with more information. More information means that you can detect breast cancer at an earlier stage. Earlier stage means you're saving lives. So this device has been credited with saving not hundreds of thousands, but millions of lives since its advent. And then we opened up a whole new area of study called computer-aided diagnosis, where we did the early preset to AI in terms of developing expert computer-aided diagnosis algorithms to detect possible precursors to breast cancer like microcalcifications, stellate circumscribed lesions, or asymmetric glandular distortion, all these type of things that help detect cancer at an earlier stage. And that's what I'm most proud of.
I can see why. And it's, would take a lot to knock many of your other accomplishments off, but that would out of the top spot, but that would have to be a
Yes.
solid candidate to do it.
I agree. I think that is the top one.
So, you mentioned how important perseverance is, and clearly, because NASA, you said, rejected you 11 times?
11 times.
So I imagine if it was me and NASA rejected me, I would be, devastated. What does it feel like, and how do you come back from that and go, you know what? Gonna do it again?
Well, I developed, I'm an engineer, so after I get selected, I always say, how did I get here? And how can I do like a little flow chart so I can tell people how to get there too? And so I developed a 3-element strategy to reaching a goal. Aside from the 5 ingredients and then adding 6 for perseverance, there's a 3-element strategy. And I'll tell you, the first one is very obvious. The first one is when you want to accomplish something or get to somewhere, the first thing you do is, okay, how do I do this, right? What's the minimum requirements to get there? And that's what I did. I said, I want to be an astronaut. I knew I had to go into a STEM career, graduate level, and then get experience. Well, I did that, and I was applying, and I was getting rejected left and right. After the 6th rejection, no one loves rejection, Talia, not even me. After the 6th rejection, I was ready to give up. But my wife gave me a pep talk, and she asked a very important question. She said, what do they have, meaning the people that got selected, that you don't? And then she walked away, said, don't give up. And she walked away, and I couldn't answer that question because I didn't know. I didn't bother to compare myself with the people I want to be like and ask that important question. Once I went to find out, it was a big eye-opener, Talia, because yes, they had similar education. Yes, they went to graduate school, same age and all that. But then when I probed further, I found out that all of them were pilots. I wasn't a pilot. So I needed more work. I needed to invest in myself and take flying lessons. I became visual flight rule certified, instrument flight rule certified. Another year, I did the same comparison. Yes, they were all pilots, but so was I, so I was happy. I took a deeper probe into their background, found out they were all scuba dive rated. I thought, man, now I got to learn how to scuba dive. So I drove to Monterey, California from Stockton every weekend for like a year. I got basic certified, advanced certified, scuba rescue, master rated scuba dive. But then I think what really set me apart, so that's the second element, right? Is that compare yourself with successful people you want to be like and invest in yourself to be like them, whether it's work habits, training, whatever it is. The first one is meet minimum requirements. But the third one is you got to create a differentiator for yourself. And my differentiator came when I accepted a job no one wanted. And that was going to Russia, coming full circle with the Russians. Remember, first we were developing a weapon to defend ourselves against. Well, now they wanted someone to go over there and help them take control of their nuclear stockpile. And so no one wanted to do it. But, Jose raised his hand because you got to be strategic with your career. Sometimes you got to do things you don't like in the short run to end up where you want to be. This was certainly a case. I didn't want to go to Siberia. It was a 5-year commitment. You're going to travel in Siberia. You got to travel 6-7 times a year, 3 to 4 weeks at a time at their nuclear weapons complex sites and help them take control of their nuclear stockpile. Physical materials control and accountability measures that we did. We did vulnerability analysis and all that for their facilities, and we did all that. But why did I accept it? Well, it's not because I wanted to get to know Siberia in the middle of winter over a 5-year period, or sometimes, over a 5-year period, 6, 7 times a year. It was because you got to be strategic. I said, I had read in the papers a few months before that the newly formed Russian Federation and NASA, U.S. government, signed an agreement to build what was going to be the International Space Station. So it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, even though I am one, that we were going to be working with the Russians in space. And so I said, this is my different. If I take this job, I'm going to ask for a Russian language instructor. I'm going to get all this experience with the Russians. This has got to set me apart from the 12,962 applicants that want to be astronauts. And guess what? It did. But even so, it took me, because you make the final 100 and then you go off for a week to NASA and they poke and prod you, psychological profile, aptitude testing, interviews. And then from those 100, they'll select 10 to 15 astronauts. Well, even so, I made the final 100, not once, not twice, but it wasn't until my third time in the final 100 that I finally got selected by NASA. So you got to really want it.
Yeah. What did it feel like when you did get selected?
I said it was about damn time. It wasn't, people say, well, you must have thought you won the lottery and all. I said, no. I said, I earned this. It was about time. This should have happened years ago.
Well, you're right about persevering. So I got to say, I love space. I'm a little terrified of the ocean. And you're not just an astronaut, you're also an aquanaut. You've actually lived under the ocean.
That's right.
What was that like? And did it help you prepare for being an astronaut at all?
Yeah. As an aquanaut, what happens is off the coast of Key Largo, about 6 miles off the coast, there's a habitat called the Aquarius habitat, 60 feet underwater. And it's a livable vessel that's like a stationary submarine anchored down in the bottom. And what you do is you dive 60 feet underneath, and then you go into this vessel and you're in a dry environment. Once you're there, you now basically follow a high fidelity timeline, whether you're on the surface of the moon or Mars. In our case, it was the moon. And so you have all the equipment there to do experiments that you would do inside the vessel on the surface of the moon. But then you also do moonwalks. So you don on one of these spacesuits, you go out to the bottom surface of the ocean. Divers come in and they put you the buoyancy such that you're like 1/6 of the gravity of Earth. So you feel even when you're walking on the bottom of the ocean, you feel like you're walking on the moon. And then you do basically activities that you would do on the moon. You do them in the bottom of the ocean. And so we did that for 14 days. So yes, it does prepare you for a mission to go up into space.
I would love to go into space. I think I would be terrified to go under the, going to space. Many astronauts describe that wonderful feeling when you feel weightless for the first time, but then you have to come back to Earth. And now you're back in gravity. What did that feel like?
Yeah, well, first, let me just say that you never get tired of 0G. It's just amazing up there. And, we landed in Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California. And as you come in, you got your helmet, you got everything on. You feel your helmet heavier and heavier on your neck. And when we first landed, I think my first 2 words to my to the rest of the crew was "gravity sucks," because there's this 1G readaptation effect. Your vestibular balance system in your inner ear is uncalibrated because it's a cavity with hair follicles and fluids. But when you're in 0G, all that stuff's floating around. So it's very uncalibrated. When you come back home, your whole balance system is off. You feel, I guess the best sensation I can say is if you've been in a boat with 10, 12-foot waves, and then all of a sudden you get back to terra firme, it feels like the waves are still there. That's how it felt when we came. You always notice when astronauts come back from space, they have a wide cowboy stance. That's because their balance is off, and it takes about a day or so for you to get back to somewhat normal. As a matter of fact, they don't allow you to drive a car for the next 2 days after you get back. So yeah, it takes some readaptation, and it certainly took it for me. Some people it hits harder than others, but I had a mild case, but eventually things got better.
What is it that you're doing now?
Well, what I'm doing now, I mean, it's what I had plugged in earlier, right? I have a very successful consulting business in aerospace. So I work with NASA, I work with other companies. We just sent a payload up to the surface of the moon on an intuitive machines payload. So we're doing that. We work in agriculture with my dad and the grapes and refining our wine, introducing new varieties of that. I have a foundation called Reaching for the Stars where we preach the good gospel of STEM careers to underserved individuals in the northern Central Valley of California. And so we stay pretty busy. I'm writing my fourth book. I'm writing a la Tony Robbins how-to book, quantifying everything, that 6-ingredient recipe with my father, the 3-element strategy, and we'll have a nice book coming out, and hopefully it'll be well received. It will be my fourth book, so we're doing that.
When is that due out?
I'm hoping by the end of the year. I have it. The draft is already written. I just gotta find time to finalize it, and hopefully I'll do so this summer.
What sorts of barriers do you see that still exist for young people from underrepresented communities in pursuing science?
I think it's just opening their eyes. I think it's what my dad did to me, empower me to believe. Lots of these kids don't believe they can be a scientist. They don't believe they can be an engineer. They don't believe they can be an astrophysicist. And sometimes all they need is someone to look at them straight in the eyes and say, I believe in you. I think you can do this. And you expose them to them. You expose them to different STEM careers so that they know. Sometimes because they don't know, they don't think about it. Once you expose it to them, they say, hey, I can do that. I can be that. And so that's what we try to do with our foundation, Reaching for the Stars.
It sounds wonderful. It's similar to our mission here at the museum.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you want to see what we're doing, just go to astrojh.org. And that's the page of the website for the foundation. You'll see all the good things that we do.
Now, I think you are the first person I have ever met who has been the subject of a film, not a documentary.
That's correct.
An actual
That's correct.
film in which you are played by the incredible Michael Pena. How did that happen? How did you did Amazon knock on your door and say, "Hey, we want to make a movie about you"? Or
No. Actually, one of the film houses was the one that knocked on my door, and they said, do you want to do this?" At first, I didn't believe them. Because I had others come before, and, I would look at their pedigree and it looked like, upstart producers, wannabe producers and they were trying to hang themselves on my story. And so I would never sign anything. But these guys didn't have me sign anything. They said, just look at what we've done. And they did McFarland, USA. Remember those cross country?
Yes.
Yeah. They did that one. They did Secretariat. They did The Rookie, $1 Million Arm. When I saw that, I said, this film house called Select Films specializes in inspirational films. I said, this is where my story does belong. And the fact that they didn't even have me sign anything, they said, let's just prepare a storyboard. We'll do a rough draft of the script and we'll go to 6 studios. When we did that, 4 out of 6 said yes. They said they never had that type of response. They were lucky if they got 1 or 2 maybe. And they got 4 out of 6. And they said, where do you want it at? And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, you could go streaming or you go to the big screen. And I said, which one's better? I said, well, it's big screen. You can make some pretty good money. I said, but I want eyeballs on it. I said, well, then streaming is your choice. Because once it hits the movie theaters, it's only on for a certain time. Then it's out. Then you don't have access to it. Now, mine's been out for 2.5 years. I could still point to them because I went with the streaming. And I could still point to them and say, hey, you can see it on Prime right now if you want. And so that's why I picked Prime. And then we started picking actors. And, of course, I asked for Michael Pena, and we got him. And I know what you're probably thinking. He's not as good looking as I am, but he's a good actor. He's a great actor. Now, in all fairness, I got Michael Pena, and I asked for him. But I also asked for Salma Hayek, and I didn't get her.
So that film, A Million Miles Away, it's been on Amazon for, you said 2.5 years?
2.5 years, yeah. And it's still going strong.
Still going. And have you had any stories of people who watched it and then came up to you and gave you their reaction to it? I mean, obviously, besides like critics and people whose job it is to watch films.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, yeah. They've come and... they typically want to take a picture and say, hey, gotta take a picture. You're the guy from the movie, right? And then I make a cameo towards the end of the movie. And so that's when I tell them, did you see my cameo? And half of them miss it. And I said, well, now you got to watch it again. So that's a way for them to watch it again.
What is it like to have, like for you to see yourself represented in a movie by somebody else, see your story represented?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, to me, it's a proud moment for my family, because we always wish the best for our kids and to be the best role models. And I said, man, how much more of a role model you want me to be if I could tell you I have a movie of me, because, my kids, they grew up in Houston as I was an astronaut when they were small, and they thought it was, everybody's dad's an astronaut because they went to elementary school where several, in the neighborhood where all the astronauts live, and so it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't until I left NASA and we came back to California that they found out, oh, wow, my dad is a big deal. So now hopefully with the movie, they say, okay, well, now it solidifies that.
I mean, every kid thinks their parent is just dad, right?
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the level of perseverance it took you to become an astronaut. And what about, these other things that you've done? You talked a little bit about how you came to develop the breast cancer detection technology. Has anything required the amount of perseverance and effort that it took to become an astronaut in your life?
No, I think being the astronaut was the biggest challenge I had, and mainly because it was out of my control. Right, I could only do so much to make myself attractive, and it's in the hands of the NASA folks who decides whether you're worthy or should be looked at, and thank goodness that finally, after doing all these things to make myself attractive to NASA, it finally paid off. But it could have not paid off as well. And the thing is, I wouldn't have never had the regrets because I just kept trying. I said, the worst they can do is say no. And so that's why I tell folks, I said, look, sometimes you're not going to reach your goal, which is why I always tell people you got to enjoy the journey. Because if you're not enjoying the journey, chances are you picked the wrong goal for yourself, and the risk is you won't reach that goal. So you better be enjoying what you're doing.
So you talked a little bit about how when you were in space, it really kind of shifted your perspective on Earth's people and Earth as an environment.
Yes.
How did it sort of change your life when you got back from space, when you're back on the ground and you're back in a place with borders, in an environment that's changing? How did going to space change your life once you got back?
Well, it just made me more recognizable, I guess is the word. Folks would recognize me and would ask me to go and give a talk here or there, whereas that didn't occur as much before.
It gave you kind of a platform.
It gave me a platform to voice, to be able to develop a voice for what I thought were good things to promote.
And you sort of mentioned and touched upon this already. What is the most important piece of advice that you would give young people right now so that they don't give up on their dreams?
Well, I think it's twofold. It was to follow Dad's recipe, 5-ingredient recipes, add perseverance, and then incorporate that 3-element strategy. Once you define your goal, make sure you meet the minimum requirements. Once you do that, compare yourself with the people you want to be like and make sure you invest in yourself. And once you do that, create a differentiator that makes you the obvious choice when the next opportunity presents itself.
This has absolutely nothing to do with your career. Do you like sci-fi?
I do.
What's your favorite sci-fi?
Well, it's Star Trek,
Star Trek.
original series.
Good, solid choice.
Yes.
I am also a big fan.
Yes. I mean, that's what I used to watch when I saw Apollo 17, and coupled with Apollo 17 and Star Trek, I think that's what sort of moved me towards space.
Did you have a favorite character?
Captain Kirk.
Of course.
I actually went to the Antarctica with him last November.
With William Shatner?
With William Shatner.
Oh, what was that like?
It was great. It was Neil deGrasse Tyson, William Shatner, Scott Kelly, and Charlie Duke, who walked on the moon, Apollo 16,
Yeah.
and then myself.
Also a very low key group.
Yeah, it was a space to sea voyage, or some type of high end voyage to the Antarctic. So I just saw it as an opportunity on my bucket list. I want to go and set foot on the Antarctic continent, and I took that opportunity. It was actually in December when we went.
So we can add Antarctic Explorer to your long list
Thank
of
you very much for
accomplishments.
reminding me that. I got to add that, huh?
Okay, so you've been to Antarctica.
Yes.
You've also been to Siberia,
Yes.
which is colder.
I would say Siberia was colder.
Oof.
Because we went to Antarctica during what's considered the summer months. And I've been to Siberia when what's considered the winter months. And let me tell you, it is cold, cold, cold.
Yep, I can only imagine. Probably, cold in like good prep for going to the moon though.
Yeah,
it's very cold there.
Exactly.
Well, José Hernández, astronaut, aquanaut, Antarctic explorer, entrepreneur, philanthropist, inventor, winemaker. Have I forgotten anything?
Farmer. Yeah.
Excellent.
Author.
Author. I forgot author. 4 books, and I forgot author. My goodness. Thank you very much for taking the time out of all of that to come and talk to us here at the museum. It was really wonderful getting to talk to you.
It's a pleasure being here at the museum. Like I said, it's my first time, but I'm certain it's not going to be my last time. Hopefully I get invited back and do some other activities, because I think what you guys do here is great, and you do it to the masses. I'm very impressed at the amount of people here, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, we'll be very happy to have you back whenever you want to come.
Great.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Talia.